everyone, this is Jackie Williams. Thanks so much for joining me. In this video, I want to make a project with you using the Frosted Forest bundle. Now, this bundle has stamps and dies, and it also has a set of masks. Now, the masks are in groups of 3, so there's 2 groups of 3, 6 in total. And 3 of the masks work with this tree. And then the other 3 actually layer onto either or both of these more pine tree images. Now, as well as working with the stamp set images, there are also some standalone dies that just work by themselves. So I've got lots of samples to share with you at the end using all of the elements in this set. But for this video project, we're just going to use the masks. Now, you could do this little technique using colored paper, very pale color, but even then, for my personal style and opinion, it was still too dark. So I'm going to create my own pale colored background. So I'm going to use Balmy Blue, and I'm going to do a technique that is just simply called direct to paper. So I'm taking the ink pad and applying ink directly to the paper. Okay, and you want to do this with a fairly light hand. And I want to have these color streaks and variations that you can see coming up. I don't want it to look completely solid. I'm happy with that. And I think I'm going to take my marker and just do a little bit of splattering. If you don't like this, then you could leave that off, or you could just splatter with a bit of white, or use a stamp that's got a splatter type effect. Anything that you want to do just to add some interest to the background. Now, also, before I put my trees on there, I think I want to stamp my words first so I can then place my trees around the words. So I'm going to pull out a stamp set that at the time of filming this has not yet been released. This is called Christmas Labels, and I really like stamp sets that have different fonts, so you can use it year after year and it doesn't, look quite repetitive. So I thought that Peace on Earth was a nice saying to go with trees. Stamp that just up here in the corner, and I'm using Pebbled Path. Okay, now I am using my old Stamparatus platform just because I want something magnetic. So you can use, if you have one of these, use this or something else that you have magnetic, or you could just use some washi tape just to hold it still. I've also just placed it up in the corner here, so if I do move it, I have a reference point. Now, your masks have, at least for the pine tree one, they have an A, B, or C. So you want to do them in that order. And I've also put a little X on my mask so that it's clear to me which way is up. Especially with ones like these, it would be fairly easy to turn them over because it's not really obvious which way it goes. So I'm going to do 3 layers of trees on here. So I'm going to start with what I'm going to have as my main tree, and this will make sense later. So I'm going to take my pen and just label this, and I'm going to put this as my first tree here. And I would like to do the first layer in Old Olive. Now I find with these masks, it's best to just use very gentle pressure so that you don't bend up all these little fine details. I'm just going to add the little tree here. Okay, so that's tree number 1. Then I'll go for tree number 2, a little bit shorter, and I'll put that about here. And I'm going to mark this as tree number 2. And then I'll put one more over here. I'll do this one as tree number 3. Okay, now for these little trees, I'm just going to put a few in there. I'm not going to do another layer on these, so it doesn't really matter too much where I put them. I'm just going to put just very lightly, just to add a little bit of color in the background. Maybe just like that. So now we have a forest of trees, but you can see I have 1, 2, 3 of those larger trees. It even looks kind of cool just like that, but I just want to add a little more detail to this. So I want to add layer B with the mossy meadow. Now I did one earlier and I've got some pretty peacock on there. I'm just going to leave it because I quite like these colors together, so I don't mind if there's a little bit of that color on there. Okay, so now I will go to tree number 1 and use my markings. You can see why I made markings, because with these trees, it's not really clear where they go. Oh, that's quite dark. Tree number 2. So this layer almost appears to be an underlayer. Tree number 3. So this color kind of sits below the old olive. There we go. I'm just going to leave it like this. I quite like that. You've got that darker color that's sitting beneath. One final step, I'm going to take the third mask, and this time I'm going to add it just to the one tree. So I did all the trees in Old Olive, and then just the larger trees in Mossy Meadow. And then for the third layer, I'm just going to choose this one taller tree that I put off to the side. So I'll line that up with the markings for number 1. Now this one doesn't line up. So this is meant to be something sitting on top of the tree. So like snow, you could do a Versamark and add some silver or white or clear embossing powder, or you could do embossing paste, or you could even do the pearlized enamel effects, any sort of extra detail you want to add to the tree. Now I want to use my shimmery embossing paste. I've been using this a bit more lately and I've been quite enjoying it because it's like it's clear, but it has some sparkle to it. Now there's a little bit of blue in it because I was using it earlier on some blue, but I'm okay with that. So I'm just going to run that over the mask until I can see all the holes are covered, and then just take off the extra, pull that away. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's so cool. And then if you would like to, I'm just going to take what's left on my brush. I'm just going to put it down here at the bottom just to add a little bit of a snowy bottom. But it's not even really snowy because it's not that white. It's just sparkly. And there we go. Now, before we start assembling the card, I'm just going to take a little notch out of each side, just a tiny bit, just to allow for a bit of ribbon. So I'm just going to take a tiny little bite. It's a great way to use your circle punch too. Okay, and then I'll use this iridescent ribbon. This is such a pretty ribbon for Christmas. And place that on there and then just sort of gauge. So that needs to go about here. And then this other small piece would need to go about there. I'm going to tuck this larger piece underneath because I'm going to tie a bow with this. And then this can sit on top like this. And then I've got this piece all ready to go. I'll just tie a little bow on the side. And there we go. There is our ribbon. We've got a little notch on each side to allow for the ribbon. And then I'm going to put this up on dimensionals after matting on Pool Party onto Lost Lagoon. And I don't think it needs gems because you've already got some texture and sparkle here on our tree. So that is actually a card that you can make fairly quickly. And here is another version I made earlier, this time using Lost Lagoon and Pretty Peacock on the trees. And then I use Pretty Peacock in the background and for the words, but otherwise the layout is exactly the same, just different colors. So it'd be fun to experiment, and you know, you can even make trees in purples and pinks and blues, and you can experiment with that. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now, here's one that I didn't end up finishing. I wasn't super happy with how it turned out, but I thought I'd show you anyway, of doing colored ink onto just straight colored cardstock, so not doing that background technique that I showed you. Then here's a few other samples that I've made. Sorry, this one is using the stamps and then the other set of masks to color in this kind of a mighty oak sort of tree. And this is a nice one for, you know, a birthday, or even Father's Day is coming up in the South Pacific, so it's a nice saying for Father's Day as well. Let's see, this one is using also the stamps and dies and the masks, but using the other tree. And for this one, I've used the pearlized enamel effects through the third mask to give it just kind of a sparkly finish. These ones is a little bit of a fun fold card, and you can see that they're the same card, just one done in the more pretty peacock shaded spruce colors, and then this one in more the old olive colors, and using that oak tree again. And then just for something a little bit different, this one uses more just the dies, so not the masks or the stamps. We don't really celebrate or do much for Halloween here in the South Pacific, but I don't know, I was just in the mood and I thought this was quite fun to make and actually very simple. And if you don't want to do Halloween, then you could just change those colors and remake this project in more general colors. And then this one is sort of similar, using those dies, but using a little bit of a masking technique in the background and adding some shimmer spray made with the pearlized enamel effects. So there you are. I hope you enjoyed that and that inspires you to use the Frosted Forest bundle. If you don't have this bundle yet, the link is in the video description to purchase this fantastic bundle. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, please leave me a comment and don't forget to subscribe. This is Jackie Williams, and I'll see you next video. Bye-bye.